hopping on the sneaky tip, everybody. This is Mike, and welcome back to another delicious serving of knowledge from UltimatePoolGuide.com. We have our brother Josh Johnston writing in today saying, "Thank you, Mike, giving credit to those dudes is righteous. Make more videos on setting coping and prepping mortar bed. Keep that wizardry coming. I'm listening and watching." Well, thanks, Josh. That was a very generous comment, and we appreciate you writing in. And here's your video on coping and mortar bed prep. We are on a job of mine in beautiful Los Angeles, California, and we are doing basically an entire remodel here on an existing pool structure, and part of that is the coping. Obviously, step one, or to get the job to this phase, demolition, right? Empty pool, demo pool, that's where we're at now. We chipped the old plaster out. Okay, the next step, I'm just kind of trying to bring you up to speed here. Then we get to the coping, which has already been torn up. And the first step of the installation is setting the form boards. Okay, this is a very common form board. This is 1/4 by 3 bender board. This can be found at your local building supply, construction supply, or landscape yard. Very cheap, inexpensive. Again, 1/4 by 3 inch. Okay, these elevations have already been set. So this was all done in preparation for the installation of the coping. So the form boards, the level is set, and the other thing that we're also setting is the depth of the mortar bed. I recommend a minimum mortar bed for pool coping to be a 1/2 inch, and we're going to discuss that in one moment. So we have the form boards have been set. They're anchored into the side of the pool. This can be done using a powder actuator fastener or just hammer and nail. Here we have some concrete stakes that have been nailed into the side of the pool wall to support our form board. Again, 1/4 by 3 bender board. Cut. Okay, so here we are now topside on the pool. Okay, and here you can see the actual prep of the mortar bed. After we pulled up after we demoed the old coping material, we came through here and chipped up and removed any loose damaged pieces, and then did a little bit of repair to the mortar bed here. Here you can see our form boards that we have set with mason's line. Okay, this mason's line has also been part of the preparation, and this is what's going to help keep the coping pieces level as we move around the pool. I want to show you a few things here. The height of the form board dictates the depth of your mortar bed, if that makes any sense. You don't want, for example, you don't want this form board flush with the top of the bond beam. This is the bond beam of the pool, okay? So this is what we're referring to as the bond beam, this top portion of this edge of the pool, or the curb of the pool. So this dictates the depth of our mortar bed, and as I said earlier, I'd like to see that to be a 1/2 inch minimum. Okay, these are the coping pieces that we're dealing with. This is like a pewter gray natural stone. It's been tumbled, which gives us these soft edges. It's also bullnose. The other thing to note about this stone is this 2 inch. Very common for pool coping to be 2 inch. It can be, I've seen natural stone, clay fired brick is very common, precast, poured in place, travertine. These are all common and widely used and accepted materials for pool coping. So for this job, we have bullnose, tumbled, natural stone, 2 inch thick. A traditional pool coping width is 12 inches. For this job, the client selected a 14 inch wide material, which is no big deal. So it's 2 inch by 14 by 24 long. This is an egg beater style mixer hooked up to the end of a DeWalt drill, and this is what we use to mix the batches of spec mix and thin set. The spec mix is used as our mortar bed, and then a small amount of thin set is applied to each piece of stone prior to being installed. Okay, so here's a different shot of essentially the same thing. It's showing you the cut pieces on the corner. It's showing you the mason string that we've set up to follow as our guide for level. It's showing you the spec mix down here that we have used and are continuing to use for the mortar bed, and here you can see the thin layer of thin set that we apply to the bottom of each piece of stone prior to setting it in place. One question that I get asked a lot is, how do I know that I've used the right amount of mud, or how much is too much mud, or how much is not enough? And a great indicator is material pushout, which is this right here. So you are troweling your stuff in with like your notch trowel, you know, and you're putting your base in, and when you see this material pushout, that's how you know that you've got enough mud down there. I'm also looking at my grout joint right here, and I see the same thing. I can see my spec mix is pushing out through my pieces, and that is how I know that I've got the correct amount of mud used as a base. Material pushout, or seeing mud squeeze out from in between your pieces, is a good sign that you're using enough mud. If you look in between the grout line here, you can see my spec mix. This is how I know I got good mud. It's good consistency. I'm gonna have good bond. Pieces aren't gonna fall off when I leave the job. Know what I mean? Okay, so here we can see that we are right in the middle of laying the coping pieces in. As we're moving along, we are essentially following our level. We have the mason string, which is right here. We have a 4-foot level and a 2-foot level, and we're checking each piece, both north and south, as well as left and right. The other thing we can see from this profile angle is the mortar bed and the thin layer of thin set that we are applying to the bottom of each stone. The other thing to pay attention to is that each stone has a working edge and a face. A working edge and a face. Each piece of stone also has a front and a back. Obviously, the square portion is the back, and the bullnose portion is the front, or the part that's going to be facing into the pool. Your spec mix and your thin set can be mixed in 5-gallon buckets just like this. It's typical that we have one bucket that we're working with and another bucket nearby for water. Between these two buckets, we're mixing our mud and thin set. Using the egg beater on the end of a drill is a very effective and widely accepted method to mix your mud. Also common to have a sponge on hand so that we can sponge our material down as we're going and keep everything clean. And then we also have a rubber mallet and a mason's hammer to adjust the pieces as we're going. I understand how large phases of the job can seem intimidating, and it is. We're dealing with thousands of dollars of boutique stone, and we really don't want to mess this part of the job up. To break it down and to review, demo out old material. Repair with rapid set, cementol, spec mix, plastic cement, and sand. Any of those you can use to repair your work area. Set your form board and your guideline or your mason string. Your form board needs to be level, and it also dictates the size of your mortar bed. I recommend a minimum 1/2 inch. Follow your mason string and use your bubble levels to set yourself as you go. Use spec mix as your mortar bed, a thin layer of thin set on each piece of stone as you go to increase bond strength. Two-inch material, very common for pool coping. Working side, face, bullnose front, square back. Set each piece one at a time. A job like this could be done in 2 days. In fact, we're going to come back tomorrow and finish, so it will be 2 days. Personally, I think there's other stuff that's a little more difficult, like tile, pavers, and whatnot.
Pour
So I hope this video helped to demystify coping installation and working with cement products. If you were confused about anything or would like something explained in a little more detail, please feel free to leave a comment in the comments section below. I do read them and will get back to you. This is Mike, and thanks for watching this week's feature how-to.
Creí que no era un juego, me diste una puñalada y ahora siento que estoy muerto.